Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ryan Suter. I'm one of the senior investment managers here at Sharewise, and we're here with Matthew Heine, who's the Managing Director of Netwealth Investments. Matthew's been kind enough to lend us his time this afternoon to be able to ask, I'm going to be able to ask a couple of questions to him. I'm sure he's going to give us some absolutely cracking answers. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to ask any questions to Matt yourself, please do so through the Q&A function, and I will filter those through and ask them out. But I'm obviously going to get things started with a couple of my own. Matt, again, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Really appreciate it. First up, what do you really think differentiates Netwealth Investments from other wealth management firms in the Australian market?
Thanks, Ryan. First of all, thanks for having me, and thanks to everyone that's dialed in. So look, the wealth management industry in Australia is obviously very diverse, and there's a number of different participants and segments within the wealth management market. So Netwealth is primarily a platform provider. So we provide advisors, financial advisors, and clients with a technology platform that allows them to manage their whole of wealth. So that could be a self-managed super fund, could be their super fund, investment portfolio, and effectively through a single account, a client with their advisor or directly is able to buy and sell shares, manage funds, international equities, bonds, private market assets, and do it all through a single account. So it's really easy for them to actually manage and to administer. We then do all of the tax reporting and all of the ongoing reporting and management reporting as well for that particular account. So the platform market has been operating for probably around 20 to 25 years. It's gone through a huge amount of change during that period, and it's gone through even more change over the last 5 or 6 years since the Royal Commission. Subsequent to that, there's probably now somewhere between 8 and 10 providers in the marketplace. So it's very competitive. The total market or dollars that are sitting within the platform market currently sits a bit over $1 trillion, and Netwealth's market shares somewhere in the vicinity of 8%. So we've grown a lot, but equally we've got a very long way to go. And whenever we get asked by clients or investors, are we going to go overseas? We point to the fact that we've still got a very small market share relative, and plenty of opportunities to not only grow within our existing market, but also to expand the market into a range of new areas, which I'm pretty confident we'll touch on today. So back to your question about what differentiates us. So Netwealth has come from very, very different background, I guess, to a lot of the traditional providers. If you look at the largest players in the market, the likes of BT, Insignia, they've all come from institutional backgrounds where they've been part of large institutions or banks, and really grown through that tied distribution network that was sort of prevalent within the Australian market over the years. Netwealth set out to build a platform independently. So we've only had a very small distribution force at one point, which we exited a number of years ago. So we've really been very focused on that customer service, making sure that we've got fantastic technology, and that we can really build products, services, and solutions which are what our clients want. So very focused on the client and making sure that what we're doing is differentiated to all of our competitors through that service, through that range of investments, through the ease of use, or into the as a reflection of the new markets that we're moving into. So it's an exciting business. I've been at the company for 23 years, so really sort of been there since the ground floor, and still plenty to do.
Absolutely brilliant to hear. Thank you very much for that one. Now, moving on, just relating to, you just briefly discussed your client segments. Realistically, what's the typical client segment that Netwealth targets and who they cater to? And are there any specific areas moving forward that Netwealth wants to target, obviously, to increase their market share?
Yeah, so probably two answers to that. The first is if you look at, I guess, who our client is, it really is split between financial advisors that use our technology and our platform to manage all of their clients, and to a much smaller extent, direct customers who might come to us to use our different solutions. So the advice market is really our primary market, and that accounts for about 95% of all clients onboarded. And so, clearly the platform has been geared up to support them, to help them scale their businesses, and for them to run their business very efficiently, and to deliver the investment solutions that they need for their clients. When you actually look below that, though, so the type of clients that the advisors that use us are servicing, we really focused on 3 key market segments. The first is the emerging affluent. So one way to think about them is the millennials with money. So they're typically high income earners in good jobs, and looking to grow their wealth. Might be for the first house, but also looking to start saving for retirement and building their wealth more generally. So we've got a set of products that suit them. We've got a really good suite of products that services the mass affluent. So that's typically your mum and dad investors. Average client balance would be somewhere between $500,000 and $750,000. Typically, they have a range of needs, whether that's mobile access, the type of assets they're investing into, or the reporting that they're wanting. And then we have a very successful business in the high net worth and ultra high net worth part of the market as well. So clearly, whilst we're servicing three different segments, there's a lot of commonality as far as the types of assets they're going to be using, so managed funds and shares. But as you move into each of those segments, there are very specific sort of requirements. If you think about the high net worth and the ultra high net worth, we've got a very broad range of sophisticated assets that they're able to invest into. We facilitate investment into foreign currency overseas, hedge funds, infrastructure assets in private markets, very active in bonds, and their requirements around reporting are going to be far more sophisticated than perhaps a mass affluent or a emerging affluent client. But that said, we're very keen on building out each of those key markets, building on the core foundations or the commonality, but then making sure that we've got best of breed solutions for each of them as well.
Of course. Well, thank you very much. Now, obviously, how does Netwealth ensure that its services are accessible and relevant to clients with varying levels of financial literacy? Obviously, you have mentioned that the target market does appear to be affluent individuals all throughout their varying life, but there are some circumstances where individuals who might not be completely financially literate do come into large portions of income, especially with large areas of inheritance throughout life, and will actually need to do something with that money.
Yes, it's a great question. So there was definitely a cohort of the market, particularly if we're looking at or thinking about superannuation, where they may in fact be better off with a industry super fund, which is designed for that sort of lower balance, lower literacy style of client. Because so much of our business comes through financial advisors, that's really where our focus is. And so where clients have come into wealth, are looking to build wealth, need help with their retirement plans, the best thing that we can do to help them ensure that they're able to get the best from their financial future is to make sure that they're able to work very closely with a financial advisor who can really hold their hand and guide them through that journey. But having said that, again, we want to make sure that when any client logs onto either our mobile or onto our website or looks at our reports, that the information is really clear and concise, and that it's easily understandable. So, that's always a challenge. It can get very complex, the type of assets and the sort of business that we're doing, has a lot of complexity built into it. But that's really the outcomes that we're trying to do is how do we simplify this and making it really accessible so that customers, really do have a deep understanding of what's happening within their portfolio, or more importantly, how they're tracking towards their goals and how they're tracking towards their retirement objectives.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for that clarification. Now, just obviously regarding the market and where it's sitting at the moment. Obviously, it's a pretty interesting year in the market as a whole, coming into a year where there are large volume of the democratic world is going into an election. How do you see the wealth management industry developing forward in Australia, and more particularly, what's your outlook for the market in Australia?
Yeah, the beauty about my job and what we do is that because we're not actually investing customers' money or clients' money, we don't need to give outlooks, and I think it can be particularly challenging at the moment, particularly over the last 18 months, where there's just so much going on in the market, as you've just alluded to. But I guess one of the benefits for our business is that because we deal with such a broad range of customers through financial advisors directly, all the way up to that sort of emerging, that institutional style level, we really do see, really what's happening across the whole market. Often we get asked, what are you seeing from, flow trends and those sort of things. But the reality is that if you look across all of our clients, regardless of the type of assets they're in, we generally replicate or look very much like a balance fund. So we'll sort of get similar growth on the book just from market movement, similar to what a balance fund might achieve. But no, it's a difficult environment for a lot of people. This financial year, though, having said that, if we think about we're in the new financial year, so if we think 2 financial years back, that was a very, very different market again, and it was very difficult for professionals, for investors to make any decisions at all. There was just a lot of inertia in the market. It was very difficult for someone to make a call on whether markets were going up, down, left or right. And so what we actually saw was that a lot of the activity really slowed down in the marketplace. Last financial year, having just ticked over, that changed pretty quickly. We started to see quite a bit of direction in the market. People were feeling better about where things were heading. Sentiment certainly improved, and in that type of a market, our business definitely performs well. We get a lot more clients on board. We see a lot more money coming into existing portfolios, and we saw a lot of transitions from other competitors really starting to gather momentum and move across to us. So let's hope it continues. But yeah, there's certainly some headwinds we're facing into, and I think the US election is going to be very interesting for everyone to watch.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a very interesting couple of months.
Mm.
Now, obviously, you have briefly spoke about the fact that, there are quite a few competitors in the market, namely with, other investment management platforms.
Yeah.
How does Netwealth plan to actually stay competitive in this market, especially with other fintech companies coming on board and really starting to get funding and, posting new ideas to the marketplace?
Yeah, it's a challenge for any business to make sure that when you do have a leadership position, and we have been fortunate to be number one from a technology service and growth perspective for many, many years now, to make sure that you can keep that, sort of that drive and that innovation going within the business. So it's always been a real focus for us. It's sort of baked into our DNA, if you like. From day one, we've had to work really hard to make sure that we succeed. And the other thing that's also been critical to our success as a business is just that very tight feedback loop that we do have with our clients. So, whether it's through our sales team, feedback that we're getting through the contact center, through industry research, or through conversations that I have on a very regular basis with our customers, you do get to see and understand the trends pretty quickly. So if we suddenly find that there's a particular asset class or a manager or a bit of technology that has become very desirable to our customers, that gets surfaced really quickly, and then we can look at how do we fit that into our broader development roadmap, and where does it fit in, and is it actually going to add the value that we hope it does. So it's a constant evolution. I think the reality is that platforms, like any technology, if you don't keep investing, you fall behind really, really quickly. And so whilst we've continued to grow and we've grown revenue and we've grown profit, we've always been very focused on making sure that we always invest ahead of time to make sure that the platform is not only seen as a good platform, but as the best platform by our customers and also by our future prospects. So innovation, staying ahead, trying to spot the trends that matter, and then actually implementing them is absolutely core to what we do.
Of course, being proactive in the market. Now, keeping on the topic of being proactive and making sure you guys remain number one, what do you see as Netwealth's biggest and highest priorities growth opportunities in the current market?
Yeah, it's pretty broad at the moment. So because there's just, again, so much disruption and fragmentation in the market, which is just a fantastic environment for us. There's a lot of things that we could be doing. So from a product perspective, we're very focused on continually to uplift our reporting suite and the capabilities of that. Very focused on the client experience and the user experience through mobile and portal, which I've talked about a few times. But equally also making sure that the business behind the scenes, that we're as efficient as possible, that we're investing into the technology, and that we're able to deal with the scale that we're actually achieving. It'd be pretty hard to have a conversation these days without talking about AI, and no doubt we'll get there. But AI is really a big focus for us as a business. We've always had, not always had, for the last couple of years, we've had a number of different AI machine learning programs running and implementing different things. But with the onset of generative AI and I guess the applications for it, we really are doubling down, and we're starting to see some fantastic outcomes from those early sort of experiments and implementations. And I think what's really pleasing or interesting about it is it's not just sort of one part of the business where we're seeing it having a major benefit, both from a customer service perspective, but also from an efficiency perspective. And that's from things such as document automation. Documents and paper still does exist in our industry. And so being able to really effectively manage with that paper. So when it comes in, that it's automatically scanned, that it's automatically categorized, that we can extract data directly from those bits of paper and process them straight into our back office. So, those sort of projects, whilst there's plenty of them that we can sort of do across the business, they're going to have a real impact, I think, on our business over the next 12 to 24 months. Customer service, that's an interesting area. We've all had experiences with chatbots in the past, and it'd be fair to say they've been pretty poor. You tend to ask a question and then end up down a decision tree, which gets you to the wrong answer or to nowhere. Whereas I think with generative AI, and we've all no doubt played around with ChatGPT, the bots are actually able to truly understand the question that's being asked and start to surface up responses that make sense. to the actual question that was asked. So whether that's, where certain things are in a workflow perspective, if people are having difficulty managing their account, or just general information on the product, all those sort of things are going to be really accessible through the bots in the future. And then there's just sort of general efficiency. So using things like Microsoft Copilot to become more efficient in our day-to-day jobs, the work that it can do with the marketing teams to really sort of supercharge a lot of their content creation. So yeah, plenty of opportunities, pretty exciting, and we want to make sure that we're investing into the right things at the right time, and that we are, pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Well, exactly, that's what you have to do, and that's the benefit of AI. So obviously, you've just explored how Netwealth is leveraging AI in the back end of the business. Now, when it comes to the front end client-facing component, especially with the platform and engagement with your clients, how is Netwealth using AI in that space?
Yeah, so it's still very early days. I think we're starting to see some good examples and use cases for AI when it comes to the client-facing material. So some of the things that we're experimenting with at the moment are things like automated portfolio reports. So rather than perhaps giving someone a data-heavy table or a report pack with lots of visuals and graphs, we can easily now start to take that data and formulate very detailed portfolio reports that are in plain English. So we know and we understand that people will absorb and want to absorb information in different ways. And using AI and generative AI really gives us a lot of opportunities now and options to start to present that data in new and interesting ways. We think, again, for efficiency, there'll be things where we can build AI into individuals' workflows or into their advisor workflows. Again, just helping or prompting them to make the next best decision. But it's early days, and as someone said the other day, all very exciting. There will be disappointments along the way, but I think it's really important for us, particularly as a technology company or any business, just to be building that sort of AI muscle, experimenting, and trying to identify and really uncover what all those use cases across a business are. Because I think businesses that leave it for the next 12, 24, 36 months, whilst they wait to see what's going to transpire, they're going to find it very difficult to actually build that culture of innovation around it and to really adopt the tools that are available.
Of course. And obviously, with it being so young and with it being a constantly testing in all workplaces, have you guys come across any challenges associated with using it in the wealth management technology space?
Yeah, the biggest challenge for AI, I think, particularly in the space that we are and what we're looking to do, is first and foremost, data security has got to be front and center. So when it comes to picking the right technology, picking the right large language models, and containing that data, that's really where any project starts. From that point on, you want to make sure that the answers that you're being given are actually the correct ones. If you're building out big processes or there's decisions that need to be made along the way that require sort of AI-generated answers, you've got to have a governance structure and a framework that sits around that to make sure that you are actually going down the right path. There's plenty of capability and functionality that we manage and do on a daily basis where AI is not going to be appropriate because it needs to be very linear. You need to make sure that the formulas or the way in which the data is being used is very, very structured. So it's about making sure that you're using the right tech, the right process for the right job.
Of course. And speaking of using it for the right job, do you see AI evolving or causing change and disruption to typical wealth management and how that environment is, or do you realistically see AI just being a tool used to increase efficiency within the wealth advice space?
Yes, I think more broadly across the wealth management space, I think there will be disruption. It's going to be really interesting to see how it starts to impact asset management and portfolio management. Every second day I seem to read an article about a new manager that's launching a sort of data-driven, AI-driven portfolio or macro strategy or something. So, that is going to come. And we've seen a lot of disruption in the asset management space, whether that's through low-cost indexing or some of these newer technologies. In the space that we are, so again, working very closely with financial advisors, having a lot of conversations and discussions with the industry and with advisors at the moment, just to understand how they see AI being relevant to their businesses. And the overwhelming response at the moment is it's about efficiency. It's about helping them see more clients and providing better services and better solutions to those clients. So I haven't actually come across to date anyone saying that they're really concerned about it or that they're going to be disrupted. it really is being seen as an enabler to help them do their jobs better. And ultimately, at the moment, there's a huge supply and demand issue within the advice industry. What I mean by that is there's too many clients wanting advice and not enough advisors to give that advice. So the more efficient that advisors can become, the more efficient that we can actually help them to do their job, so that they can go from 110 clients to 130 clients or to 150 clients. That's the biggest value add that we can provide as a business, and certainly that AI is going to deliver to them within their own businesses.
Of course, and thank you for your thoughts on that one. Realistically, I've just got one more question left. So again, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to add any more questions for me to ask Matt, please do so using the Q&A function. Now, obviously, you've briefly discussed the data security issues associated with using AI in the workplace and online. Do you see any other ethical implications related to client decision making? And how is really Netwealth going about assessing these issues if they are in fact in place?
Yeah, so the ethical issues are pretty broad again, and because we're not at this stage anyway, sort of using it to make big ethical decisions, it's not something that we're thinking too much about. We are really looking at it from sort of data extraction and pulling data out of different documents or automating it or different things like that. The ethical considerations, so I think everyone needs to be very mindful that at the end of the day, the large language models or the AI engines are really giving responses based on the data that they're being fed. And so whilst I think a lot of those sort of biases and a lot of the issues that we might have seen 4 or 5 years ago have been largely eliminated, it is something that we do need to be really mindful of, because it's very easy to start getting very strange answers, depending on that data source. So yeah, absolutely, people need to think twice about the answer that they're given, particularly with the Gen AI, and where biases are, creeping in, particularly as businesses where they're building their own models or using it for their own use cases. Got to stamp them out pretty quickly.
Of course. Well, realistically, that about wraps everything up on my end. Matt, is there anything like you finished off with?
Sorry, missed that one.
Is there anything you'd like to finish us off with?
No, look, I think that's been a great conversation. Really appreciate you having me on the webinar, and yeah, thanks everyone again for dialing in.
Thank you very much, Matt, and thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Really appreciate all your time this afternoon. This one will be posted, well, this one's been recorded, will be posted on the Sharewise YouTube channel. So feel free to watch and pass it on to anyone who'd like to also view. So once again, thank you very much, Matt. Really appreciate your time.
Great to see you.